Expand your world and realize every challenge that's ever been brought to me has made me more. I've become more so I can serve more, so I can enjoy more. That's why we're here in this life, to bring more good, more great, to bring insight, to bring strength, to bring action. That's why we're here.
Welcome to the Tony Robbins Podcast. You're listening to an episode that's part of a special season on contribution called Force for Good. We're exploring the 10 gifts of life: emotion, drive, growth, joy, gratitude, connection, consciousness, grace, presence, and forgiveness. You'll hear Tony explain each gift and then hear stories of true heroes that illustrate how they show up in real life. We hope you enjoyed this episode on the power of forgiveness.
I can still see it. Like when I close my eyes, I was totally conscious through the whole thing. And it was like the entire world just slowed down and it was silent except for just this crunching sound of my bones breaking. I could see the ground, the sky, the ground, the sky. And then finally it stopped. And I could see how far I'd flipped by how long it was taking Sean to get there. And he just got terror on his face.
Sarah Foley was on a trip in southern Utah with her boyfriend Sean and their 4 dogs when something happened that would change her life forever. She flipped on a 4-wheeler, and the damage to her body was so severe that she would never fully recover the use of her legs. Like anyone who has experienced this level of tragedy, the kind of accident that changes your future in an instant. She was flooded with so many feelings, it was like a torrent of emotions. Yet there was a hidden feeling, deep underneath, that didn't come to the surface until much later in her journey. You're going to hear more about that in this episode, but first, let's hear from Tony about the F word we often try to ignore.
We continue our series, this How to Have an Extraordinary Life and an Extraordinary Holiday. The power we're going to talk about today, let me ask you a question. It's a really simple one. Have you ever been stuck? Have you ever been in a place where you were frustrated, you're angry, you're sad, or you're worried, or you're stressed, and you just couldn't get yourself out of it? Usually that happens because there's a lack of forgiveness. Forgiveness to others or yourself. In other words, you've established in your mind how life should be. And you want to make yourself crazy. You can tell life how it should be, but this is how life is. I can say how people should speak, how they should act, what they should do, but then people are going to do what they do. And most of the challenges we have in our life are because we have unmet expectations. And it's like, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your expectations, right? Tell her your plan. We've heard these types of examples before. What I really want to say is if you're going to have a magnificent holiday, if you're going to have a magnificent, extraordinary life, you got to get good at forgiveness. Because the illusion is that there's something to forgive, that someone did something to us, when in reality, most of the time, people are doing the best they can with the resources they have. Listen, have you ever snapped at somebody unfairly and felt bad about it afterwards? It had nothing to do with them. It was just the state of stress you're in. It's not an excuse, but you understand. Well, then have you ever been snapped at? You might want to remember that you've been a person who snapped too. We're all doing the best we can. And yes, that sometimes we're resourceful and things flow and sometimes not. So if you want an extraordinary life, you can't have a life filled with joy and gratitude and happiness and fulfillment if everyone has to behave a certain way, act a certain way, talk a certain way that meets your needs. Because here's the real truth. You usually are really not forgiving yourself. The truth of the matter is we don't all live the way we think we should, act the way we should, work out the way we should, treat our kids every moment that we should, have the mental mindset that we should every moment. Nobody does. And so the ability to just let go, that's all forgiveness is let go and let God, or let go and move on. Let go and let's move to something better rather than hanging on. The other day I saw an interesting interview. I don't know where it was on YouTube or somebody sent me something, and it was this professor. And the professor held up a glass of water. He said, "How much does this water weigh?" One student raised their hand and said 8 ounces. Another said 12 ounces. He said, "No, what's the absolute weight of this water?" And there was a long pause and no one could figure out what he was talking about. He said, "Well, if I hold it here for a moment, it might be 8 ounces. But if I hold it here for an hour," he said, "it's going to weigh much more heavily on my body. And if I hold it for a month, I might actually destroy my shoulder." See, let it go. Just let it go. You want a holiday gift? Give someone forgiveness. Give yourself forgiveness. Just let it go. It's a gift you give yourself. I had the privilege of meeting Nelson Mandela. He's such an unbelievable soul. Talk about somebody for forgiveness. Somebody locks you up for doing nothing wrong for a quarter of a century. If he came out of there wanting to kill every white person around, you wouldn't condone it, but you'd understand why he'd feel that way. But instead, he said while he was there, he was preparing so that when he came out, he could help lead his country in a different place, white and black together. That's an incredible level of forgiveness. You go, well, he's an amazing soul. That's true, but so are you, and so am I. It's this capacity to understand that resentment just destroys us. The person you hurt when you don't forgive is you. Mandela himself said, resentment is like drinking poison and then expecting your enemy to die. This holiday season, why not have some radical forgiveness? Why not free yourself, your family, your in-laws, somebody who's hurt you by just thinking, hey, really they were in survival. We've all been there. And it's time to let go. You don't have to be Gandhi or Mandela or Mother Teresa or Dalai Lama to understand the power of radical forgiveness for your own good, as well as for your family, your friends, your business, or anyone else. It is the way to free yourself. So could you choose right now to forgive someone for something? Could you just not have to wait for a perfect apology or perfect conditions or them to prove themselves? What if you were just magnanimous? What if the spirit of the holidays is really about that concept of whatever religion or whatever belief you have, that concept of just letting go and loving in spite of whatever behavior we have. Human beings are not their behavior. We've all done things we're embarrassed by, or I'm sure you've had things that have happened in your life you hope no one would ever know. But what if you didn't have to hide that out? What if you've understood that we're all on a path of growth? And instead of perfection, which no human being is, you were forgiving to yourself to say, hey, I learned and I grew. The people around me are learning and growing. We're all here at Earth School together, figuring this stuff out. So here's my question. What could you let go of right now and free yourself? What wrong, what upset, what phrase, what behavior could you just truly give yourself the gift to free yourself of? And who else could you free? What would happen if you just let go? Could you just let it go? Would you set yourself free? And when? Now would be a good time to do it. If not in the holidays, then when? Give yourself a gift. Give the gift to someone today. Consciously, radically forgive. And no, you don't have to live in fear that it's going to happen again. We're all growing. We're all expanding. And each day is a new adventure and the exploring of what it means to be human. And the holidays are a time to maybe bring in some of the divine. Blessings to you. I hope this holiday season is touched with so much joy and so much let go that it's the best one of your life.
As you heard